Hi guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another episode, well not another episode, a new episode on Alex, Axis and Allies 1942. So, I actually sent a copy of this game, just kind of at random, and I get a few of these now, and I don't always do all of them, but I kind of checked this out, and I do vaguely remember the board game of this. I don't know if any of you guys yourselves are going to remember this, but there used to be, quite a while ago, a board game called Axis and Allies, and it was kind of quite a cool little board game, and it's sort of like Risk, but in the Second World War. It's kind of that type of thing. As you can kind of see from the map, you can see like we have our units here and our various markers: 6 infantry, 2 artillery, 4 tanks, etc., etc. And obviously it's on the global map. It's kind of slightly simplified, so some of the countries are kind of cut down. Like we don't have Vichy France or anything like that. We've got the Germans, we've got the Russians, we've got the Japanese. Obviously we're playing as the British. We now own all of Africa. And India fighting the Japanese, and we've got the Americans. And that's kind of how this works. And we're fighting basically over a global stage to conquer as much territory as possible. Or basically to hold kind of the key cities, which of course are like Italy, being Rome, France, and Germany. And then we've also got all the ones, Moscow over here. And you can see when it's a key city, it's marked with a little flag right here. And for example, the Axis need another 2 key cities to win. And we, as the Allies, need another 4 to actually win. So we're a little bit behind at the moment. I've so far been playing a few turns, and I've been quite enjoying it. I've managed to drive the Germans out of North Africa, which is kind of a good thing. But they're actually making quite a stand with their kind of high seas fleet out in the middle of the Atlantic, which is kind of proving to be a bit of a pest. And so far, we've made no dent on sort of Central Europe. So I'm at the start of my turn now, basically. On the last turn, the Germans actually did some bombing raids on us, which kind of seems kind of annoying, which should be the other way around. So we took a little bit of damage to our factory, so I'm going to spend, out of my 37 industrial production credits, I'm going to spend 1 on repair. And then I'm probably going to be doing a little bit of sea recruitment. Yeah, I'll have another one of them, so we're going to build 2 cruisers. I'm trying to build up my fleet a bit here to challenge the Germans. And then we're probably going to be focusing on land units again. A little bit of infantry. We'll have 2 infantry and a tank. And you'll kind of see how this works, because different units have different abilities. So tank has strength, attack 3, defense 3, but move 2. So it's better. Obviously can do more attack, has more defense, and can move further. But it costs 6 to produce 1. Whereas infantry, you just attack 1, defense 2. Not so good, but is obviously a lot cheaper to recruit at half the price. And you can combine infantry and artillery together to make a unit better. Anyway, that's our purchase ordering phase, so let's move on to the next phase. It gives you guys like a brief summary of basically everything you're building, which I'm happy with, so let's move to the next phase, which is the combat move phase. So it's basically deciding if I want to attack anywhere, which actually, as a matter of fact, I do. So we're currently fighting up against the Japanese, who looks like they're actually kind of pulling out of this area around French Indochina at the moment. Which is probably good for us, because it means it's kind of easy to take these places. So we'll just start moving over to these various different places over here. We'll move both tanks over. You can't move units around in the combat phase. So for example, I can't move them over. You can only do attacks. You'll have just a general move around phase actually kind of later on. But as of yet, that's not currently available to me because I've got nothing to attack. Actually not really much to attack this turn, but we're playing it a couple of turns, so I'm sure we'll see some combat soon. That's all I've got to attack. My bombers got shot down last turn, so I haven't got anything there. We'll end that phase. So it just tells you you'll move somewhere again, go to the next phase. So there is no combat. Next phase. Non-combat moves. So this is where I'm just basically moving any infantry around that I want to. Well, since we've got some units on recruitment, it makes sense for me to start to move these infantry up to Burma, because we're going to be trying to push these Japanese now. Obviously, this is the Americans representing kind of mainland China. Japanese obviously swarming all over here, and of course all around the islands and everything. We have some units down defending in Australia, so it's not all so bad. But yeah, we'll move over to Burma, and then we can start to continue to push up. Looks like the Americans actually managed to take Yunnan, but we did get French Indochina through ourselves. Then we'll probably start pushing up into Sichuan province and things like that, as we keep advancing northward bound. Still got a few units in North Africa, but we haven't got enough stuff to take them out at the moment. We're going to start to move over here, I think. It's a little bit of a risk. but I think it's one probably worth it. And we're going to move a lot of our naval forces over here into Force Square 9, and then prepare sort of to build up to attack these Germans. Yes, I know that. And then we get obviously to our mobilization phase. It's kind of obviously the one where we deploy the units that we picked at the start of the turn. Obviously, we get our 2 cruisers, which I'll place down there. I don't really want too many more units back in the mainland UK. I'm going to deploy some at least over in India for what I can. Like that, because I'm kind of going to mostly fighting the Japanese on the ground. That's the word I'm looking for. So we'll do that and we'll go to the next phase. And that is my turnover. Didn't really achieve a lot that turn. We're mostly just getting sorted. We did liberate Yunnan. Oh, liberated because it was American territory originally. But we captured French Indochina. Oh, we don't give it back to the French apparently. So it's now the Japanese turn. You can follow them, watch kind of their moves, what they're doing. It all happens so fast though, you can't really see what's going on anyway. Bit of a combat phase going on. Looks like they actually attacked and retook Burma there. Maybe they moved some forces in via land by the looks of it. Which means we're now cut off. Yeah, they managed to land some troops behind us using amphibious transports, which is not so good. But that's pretty much their turn. We do have enough units, I think, in India to probably take that back. So, it's now the American turn. Where are they? They're up in Alaska at the moment. What are they doing? Looks like they're getting involved in a bit of naval combat with the Japanese. Consolidating their fleet in the Atlantic. Blimey, so much going on. Really, I want to engage this German fleet here. That's what I want to be destroying. Okay, so they made their moves, kind of assess their fleet a little bit, get things a little bit moved around. Now the Russians, who are obviously fighting the Germans along the Moscow border. The Germans actually had a go at taking Russia and Moscow next turn, but they weren't actually very successful. So it looks like there's some. They do own Stalingrad though. Oh, and they look like they're going to be pushing into the Middle East against me. Okay, I hadn't expected that. We are getting a surprise attack going on. That's not so good. We're getting a bit of aerial bombardment against us from the Germans as well. Looks like the Russians are really struggling against the Germans, to be honest. Who are we waiting on now? It's the combat phase for the Germans. And that's unfortunate they managed to take Persia. That is something I hadn't banked on. So now we've got the Japanese who have landed tanks behind us. I've been trying to bomb us as well. Oh, which they did a crippling bombing run on us. Look at that, they've done 9 damage to my factories. That's going to be very expensive for me to repair. Okay, now we're back to our turn. Wow, look at that. We've got so much to repair. And the enemy, have they lost Moscow? They did. The enemy, Russians have lost Moscow, so defeat is near. So let's get our stuff repaired. That's going to be quite expensive. That was an unfortunate hit. And it's really annoying that the Germans managed to take that there. Okay, so we're going to have to be investing heavily in land forces, I think, by the looks of things. So we'll have a couple of tanks. Start to get some of our infantry out, just because we kind of need numbers now, I think. So we'll deploy that and go on to our combat move turn. What do we have currently in India? Just the 1 tank. No, I don't need to do that. I need to stay there. I don't want you to go to Persia. We need to try and defend India. That's unfortunate because we've now got those 2 guys down there. We can move these guys up against Burma though. So we've got 2 tanks versus 2 tanks and artillery versus 2 tanks. So at least gives us something. I don't know how the Americans are getting on. But so that kind of throws us into a slightly interesting conundrum. But I think for what it's worth, we might as well think about having a bit of a go against the German fleet maybe. Well, they got submarine cruiser, battleship. We've got a battleship and 2 destroyers. I'll at least have a go against these submarines here, because we've got quite a few destroyers now. So we should be able to hopefully stand a bit of a chance of countering that stuff there. So, we need to think about moving stuff down to intercept this German. We're in the combat move phase, aren't we? Not the actual other one. So that's all my combat moves then, really. So we'll have a few battles here, some against the Japanese, some against the Germans. So we're going to war against the Japanese as we're attacking from Burma. You'll kind of see how this kind of dice rolling mechanics work. I'll explain it a little bit as we go along. So the stronger your unit, the lower the roll you need to do damage. So for example, this artillery has an attack strength of 2, so it means I need to roll 2 or less, so it's a 1 or a 2 basically to do damage. So I make my roll. I got a 2, so that counts as a hit. If it had been a 3, 4, 5 or 6, it would have been a miss, but it counts. So now I've got our 1 tank, but because the tanks are a stronger unit, they have attack strength of 3. That means I need to roll 1, 2 or 3 to do damage. 5, so it's too high, so that means I don't do any damage. So we go on to the next phase. They lost a tank in that turn, but they still get to shoot back with the full 2 tanks this time. And we can see already we've got a hit because they got a 5 and a 1. Obviously, I'm going to apply that against my artillery, and I'll accept that. So I lost that. So then next turn, you know, they lost a tank and we lost our artillery. So it's now pretty much matched. So I'll have a go with my 1 tank. Oh, 6, bad roll. Oh no, and they got me, so there we go. We actually lost that and got defeated there. So we finished out. We knocked out one of their tanks, but we lost the combat. And we lost more resources. So in that sort of sense, it works pretty much like Risk. Obviously didn't attack with both my tanks, I kind of meant to. So we'll move on to the next one, which is probably going to be this naval engagement over here. I've not actually attacked submarines before, so this will be as much of a learning experience for me as it will be for you. So they're going to have to do reasonably well against me. They could only roll 1 to do damage. So we'll 2 or less to get damage here. 5 and 1. Okay, we hit one of their submarines straight from the off. And we get our battleship, which I need 4 or less, because it's obviously such a mighty vessel. But I got a 5. Darn it! So they get to roll, and yeah, they've rolled a 1 straight away. That's annoying. We'll obviously assign that against one of our destroyers, because we don't want to damage our battleship. So we lost a destroyer, and they lost a submarine. So we'll roll 1 for our destroyer. 3. Roll for our battleship. 5. Wow, we're getting some terrible rolls. But it looks like they've failed to get any hits either. So the battle continues. 6. God damn. 2. Okay, we get a hit. So they're down to 1 submarine, but they get 2 dice rolls. No hits. Nice. Okay, so they're now down to 1, and we still get 2. So we should hopefully take them out this turn. 6. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. God damn. They roll 3. This is a long one. So we're going for 2 or less. 5. 1, 2, 3 or 4. 5! I think this is conspiring against me. It's just conspiring to make my video long. 3! I forgot the 3 on the battleship. That'll be fine. Hey! There we go. There's the 1 that we needed. And we sunk the enemy submarine. Okay. Oh, they get to roll back. Oh, they got a hit on their final roll. So we lose our destroyer. Okay, well, we sank 3 of their submarines, but we lost 2 destroyers in the process, so not ideal. But it was worthwhile doing, I think. But of course, that means they've still got quite a lot of stuff here in kind of the centre. They've still got 3 submarines, a battleship, and a cruiser in the middle. I kind of want the Americans to engage them, really, because they have enough units to do so. But they seem kind of reluctant to do so, by the looks of it. Looks like the Russians are going to be defeated very soon. There's not really a lot I can do immediately. I just don't have the resources available to commit to much of these fights, particularly with the Japanese sort of kicking around in the middle. I don't know how the Americans are getting on against the Japanese. I don't think they're doing particularly well. But currently is looking rather defeatist. So we'll go to our next phase, which is our non-combat move phase. We'll move our planes over there, and we'll basically start racing everyone down. Try and plug this gap in with the Persia and kind of move up into the Caucasus to kind of assist over there and start to fight the Germans kind of in a more mainland way if we can, because we don't really have the transports to deal much damage or do anything else at the moment, so we're a little bit stuck in that sort of sense. So that's pretty much next turn. Mobilisation is where we get to deploy our units that we want to. I want to get as many as I can out into India. We're going to deploy our armour first, because you get a bit limited to how much you can deploy in one area. There we go, so I can't deploy any more now in India. Because it only has a factory level of 3, so basically the idea is you can't produce tons of units and deploy them all in India, because it obviously wouldn't work like that. And we'll get our rest of our land units there deployed in the UK. So we now have a massive excess of stuff and equipment in the UK, but no transports to move it, so I really need to invest in transports next turn. So we failed invasion of Burma, but we did sink those ships. So we move on to the next turn. So obviously we are now up against the Japanese, who are now going into combat mode. Obviously they're at war with the Russians and the Americans, so it looks like they're moving into Yunnan province, which I think they're going to win, to be honest. And that's my tank in there is probably going to get destroyed, because I'm the only one there, which it did, got smashed. You don't get to see defensive combat turns. We are in trouble here. We are very much in trouble. Starting to move down in force now, starting to take increasing amounts of land. Looks like they're mobilising now, deploying more of their units. Looks like they've not managed to take India at the moment. If we lose India, that's going to be a real blow, because India's got quite a bit of production in it. And I think it may capture as a major city, so that'll probably be defeat for us if we lose India. Let's have a look. We are now waiting on... Who are we waiting on? It's the Americans making their deployment. I wish the Americans would just attack the German Navy. They have so many ships. You could sink the Germans. That would be well worth doing it. Looks like they're maybe making a land invasion. Preparing for one. So they're deployed some more ships out. God, they've got so many boats. The Russians have basically got nothing to do because they're pretty much entirely defeated. What's going on now? The Germans are doing their purchasing phase. They're sending their bombers off against me, as we kind of expected. And they're pretty much smashing Russia now, what's left of it. It's going to make for some difficult couple of turns, because to hold these guys off is going to be pretty hard going, I think. Yeah, Volga, they're gone. We're getting bombed and attacked by planes every turn now, which is making things difficult. And they're starting to push a lot more friendly troops out over into Persia now as well. And they're kind of linking up with the Japanese already by the looks of things, who have pretty much flattened the rest of Russia. With Russia out the fight, it's going to be a tough fight, I think. It looks like they've just spent a lot on Navy that turn as well. Because their industrial power is now probably a lot higher than ours. Yeah, I know, you told me that last time. So we've still got a lot more repairs to do because we keep getting bombed every turn. I don't want this to get out of control though, as I'll just end up with no industrial capacity each turn if I don't repair it. So I think we need transports, I think we decided. So I can get 3 transports and 1 an artillery because that's what I can afford. So, that's my purchasing phase done. Combat move phase. Well, I don't know. Oh god, they've got 3 aircraft, a tank, infantry and artillery there. I'm going to end up even losing India, and I think if we lose India then it's game over. Because with the Japanese pressing up against us as well now, it's really going to be hard for us to do much. The Americans aren't really pushing the Japanese out. You know, in the centre really very much. It's going to be hard for us to really do anything, I think. We could have been a bit more aggressive down here, I suppose, and started to try and attack some of each of the islands, but they're all garrisoned by the Japanese, so you'll have to do a naval assault against all these garrisons, which is going to be pretty tough going. There's nowhere really for me to attack this turn. There's no combat for me this turn. Go to the next phase. Non-combat move. Let's move our armour over to... Well, we'll go to Egypt first, because that's as far as our infantry is going to be able to get. I suspect the Germans are probably going to either just go all out against India, kind of with their Japanese allies, or not. I don't know. It certainly doesn't look good for us. But anyway, this was kind of just a bit of an overview of this game. I've really only played sort of half an hour or so before I created the video, just testing out and trying out different things. I've kind of got stuck with just a ton of infantry stuck in the UK, which I can't deploy because I didn't build any transports, which is certainly a bit of an error, I think. That's kind of got me a bit locked down. But anyway, that's kind of where we'll end this video, because I just wanted this to kind of be a little bit of an overview. It's kind of fun. It's it feels relatively well optimized. It seems to run relatively smoothly for what it is. Nice little game. I kind of remember the board game. It just reminds me of like a computerized version of Risk. I think the bulk of it is... let me get back to the main menu. Return to the main menu. Is about the online stuff. That's where you do it most. You're creating online campaigns where you're against, obviously, with real players. I think it works in like a hot seat type scenario, you know, where you have your turn and then you send it and someone else takes their turn. It's like an old hot seat style game. It's not something you really see that much anymore, actually. Oh, there we go. It is called hot seat. If you wanted to do it with 2 people in 1 seat, but with the online element. Yeah, pretty cool. And there's obviously the single player against the AI, which is what I've been doing as well. But anyway, just a little random game I thought I'd bring in because I was trying it and it kind of seemed kind of cool. So yeah, something slightly interesting. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel for lots more, I don't know, random strategy game content. Random virtual board game content. For something, anyway. And I shall see you guys all on the next video.